Dangerous teenage killers who showed absolutely no remorse. A 15-year-old stabbed his teacher to death, returned to his desk and said, "Good time." Another helped murder her own father because he knew too much. And somehow these cases only get more disturbing.
And I am not sorry for the things I did do.
Karol Kot murder was an experiment. Karol Kot was only 17 years old when he began attacking complete strangers in the 1960s. He murdered an 11-year-old boy inside a church and an 86-year-old woman inside her home, stabbed other victims, experimented with poisoning drinks, and reportedly considered attacks involving fire. His reaction afterward was even colder. When investigators repeatedly asked whether he regrets his crimes, Karol eventually said yes, but not because he felt remorse, but because he wanted them to stop asking. A judge reportedly compared his desire to kill to an ordinary person's need for food. Karol was convicted and executed in 1968 at just 21 years old. He was only 21. Absolutely insane. Matthew Millett, the murder was recorded. In November of 2010, 17-year-old Matthew Millett and 18-year-old Cohen Klein took their friend David into Australia's Belanjo State Forest. David believed they were going there to drink and, just hang out. But Matthew had brought an axe. As Matthew confronted and killed David, Cohen recorded the attack. Afterward, Matthew referenced his notorious serial killer relative and declared that he had done what people in his family did. He later wrote a poem about the murder. The court called it a thrill killing carried out for Matthew's gratification. Matthew received 43 years in prison with a 30-year non-parole period, while Cohen received 32 years with a 22-year non-parole period. William Cornick returned to his desk. William Cornick was 15 years old when he entered school carrying a 21-centimeter kitchen knife. For as long as 3 years, he had reportedly talked about killing his 61-year-old Spanish teacher, Anne, and even brought alcohol to school because he intended to celebrate afterwards. Is this real life right now? During class, William attacked Anne from behind, stabbing her in the neck and before chasing her into the hallway. He then calmly returned to his desk and repeatedly told his horrified classmates, "Good times." William later said he was proud of the killing, and he has described what he had done as fine and dandy. He received the minimum term of 20 years, although the judge warned that he might never be considered safe enough to be released ever. Lorraine Thorpe killed her father to silence him. Lorraine was 15 when she and 41-year-old Paul Clark carried out 2 murders within 9 days apart. Their first victim, 41-year-old Rosalind Hunt, who was the subject to days of violence before being beaten to death. The court heard that Lorraine kicked, punched, and stamped on Rosalind's head. Lorraine's father, Desmond, knew about the murder, and prosecutors said Lorraine and Paul feared he would tell police, so they smothered him to death. The judge rejected the argument that Lorraine had merely been controlled by that, much older Paul. While hearing that, she found violence funny, bragged about the attack, and appeared to enjoy Rosalind's suffering. Lorraine received life imprisonment with a minimum term of 14 years. Something tells me that minimum is way too low. In February of 2026, the parole board again refused to release her, although it was recommended testing her in an open prison. Marcel Hesse posted evidence online. Marcel was 19 years old when he lured a 9-year-old neighbor, Jaden, into a basement in Germany and stabbed the child dozens of times. He then allegedly posted photographs and messages about the killing online, triggering a nationwide manhunt. While police searched for him, 22-year-old Christopher allowed Marcel to hide inside his apartment. Marcel then later killed Christopher because he feared Christopher might contact authorities, then set the apartment on fire. After several days on the run, Marcel walked into a Greek restaurant and told the employees to call the police. Well, in 2018, he was convicted of both murders and sentenced to life imprisonment, with the court finding a particularly severe degree of guilt. Joshua Davies, killed over a breakfast bet. Joshua Davies was 15 years old when he convinced his ex-girlfriend Rebecca Aylward that he wanted to get back together. Rebecca arrived for their meeting wearing new clothes she had bought for the occasion, but Joshua had actually lured her into a secluded woodland. For months he had been telling friends that he wanted to kill Rebecca, and one friend, believing he was joking, promised to buy Joshua breakfast if he actually did it. I don't know what kind of friend would even joke about that. Joshua attacked Rebecca with a rock roughly the size of a rugby ball, then he left her laying there just in the rain. Afterward, he contacted friends and hinted that he finally carried out the threat. The judge described Joshua as devious, calculating, and controlling, and said he had shown no remorse. He received a minimum term of 14 years. Kim Edwards watched movies with the bodies upstairs. Kim Edwards and her boyfriend Lucas Markham were both 14 when they planned to murder Kim's mother, Elizabeth, and her 13-year-old sister, Katie. The attack was not impulsive. They discussed the plan repeatedly and attempted to carry it out on 2 previous nights. On the 3rd attempt, Kim allowed Lucas inside of the house through a bathroom window, and Lucas killed Elizabeth and Katie while they slept. The teenagers then remained inside the house for approximately 36 hours, bathing together, changing their clothes, having intercourse, eating food, and watching 4 Twilight movies, while the bodies remained upstairs. The judge said Kim and Lucas had reveled in what they have done. Both received life sentences. Their minimum terms later reduced from 20 years to 17 and a half. Shirley Wolf called murder lots of fun. Shirley Wolf was 14 years old when she met 15-year-old Cindy Collier inside California's juvenile system. Within hours, they ran away together and began knocking on doors, searching for someone to rob. They eventually reached the home of 86-year-old Anna Brackett, who invited them inside and spent nearly an hour talking with them. The teenagers wanted Anna's car and decided they would not leave behind a witness. So, well, we know where this one's going. Anna was stabbed 27 times. Shirley later wrote in her diary that she and Cindy had run away, killed an old woman, and that it had been a lot of fun. Both girls were convicted as juveniles. Shirley was released in 1989, and later reports indicated that she turned her life around and became involved in helping abuse victims. That later transformation matters, but immediately after the murder, her own diary showed how little Anna's life meant to her. James Fairweather, caught hunting for another victim. James Fairweather was 15 years old when he murdered 2 complete strangers in Colchester. His first victim was 33-year-old Jim and a vulnerable father whom James found intoxicated inside a park. James had deliberately left home carrying a large knife and wearing gloves because, well, according to the judge, he was looking for someone to kill. Jim was stabbed more than 100 times. 3 months later, James randomly attacked 31-year-old university student Nahid as she walked along a nature trail. Investigators discovered that James was obsessed with notorious serial killers and closely followed media coverages of his own crime. On May 26, 2015, police found him near locations of Nahid's murder, wearing gloves and carrying a lock knife. Authorities concluded he was apparently searching for victim number 3. James received life detention with the minimum term of 27 years. Melissa Todorovic controlled the murder from a distance. Melissa Todorovic was 15 years old when she convinced her boyfriend David Bagshaw to murder 14-year-old Stephanie Rangeland, a girl Melissa had never met before. She had become jealous because Stephanie and David had previously communicated, and evidence showed Melissa repeatedly pressuring David to kill her through threats, emotional manipulation, and their relationship. On January 1st, 2008, David contacted Stephanie and lured her outside her Toronto home before stabbing her 6 times and leaving her dying in the snow. Melissa was not physically present, but afterwards she checked whether David had completed the killing. The judge described Melissa as the crime's, puppet master. She was convicted of first-degree murder and was sentenced to life imprisonment. Because she was a young offender, her parole ineligibility period was ultimately reduced to just 7 years. Tyco, his own report found no remorse. Tyco was just 17 years old when he carried out what a judge called an execution on August 22, 2020, so not too long ago. This is like pandemic time. He repeatedly shot Nasir at point-blank range in Birmingham, England, then opened fire on Nasir's friend, Lawrence, when he tried to help. The court said it was only luck that Lawrence and nearby members of the public were not killed as well. Tyco's behavior in custody was just alarming. Officers twice found homemade weapons made from sharpened toothbrushes hidden inside his clothing. The Youth Offending Services rated his risk of reoffending as very high and his risk of serious harm also very high, very alarming. While his pre-sentencing report said he showed no indication he wanted to abandon violence. Tyco was convicted of murder, attempted murder, and firearms offense and sentenced to life detention with a minimum of 20 years. Marquis laughed after the murder conviction. Marquis was just 16 years old when he helped hunt down 16-year-old Romero, and after being convicted, Romero's mother said Marquis made a cutthroat gesture towards her and claimed her son had been smoked. On September 9th, 2021, Romero had just finished his first day at college when Marquis approached this car in Manchester carrying quite a large knife. A high-speed chase followed, and after Romero crashed and ran, Marquis joined the pursuit and handed the knife to Ryan, who cornered Romero in a garden and stabbed him 4 times. Romero later died in hospital. His mother, Kelly, said the defendants show no remorse at all, absolutely nothing, accused them of giggling and smirking throughout the trial. After sentencing, all 3 reportedly laughed and waved towards the public gallery as they were taken away. Marquis, Ryan, and Giovanni was convicted of murder, with Marquis only 17 years old at the time of sentencing, and he was ordered to serve at least 18 years. Some of these teenagers planned for months, some selected complete strangers, and some celebrated afterward. But the most frightening detail is how ordinary many of them acted once the killing was over. You know, doing the murder and then returning to class or watching movies, writing in diaries, contacting friends, or posting online as though another human life had meant almost nothing at all.